Hello and welcome to another interview in the Time for Advice Digital Transformation video series. Over the course of this series, we'll be interviewing industry figures to see what they understand by digital transformation and how they see it impacting financial advice and wealth management businesses. Our guests will include industry pundits and practitioners. All will have their own views, and we hope that you'll find them interesting and informative. As a provider of technology solutions to financial advisors, we've no doubt about the value digital transformation can deliver a business, not only in increased profits, but also in long-term sustainability. Too few people have access to professional advice, simply because the current model is overly expensive due to disconnected systems and multiple manual workarounds, which diverts time away from client relationship management onto mundane tasks like review report writing that clients simply don't value. At Time for Advice, we want to change all of that. We're already hearing from clients that are well on their way to digitally transforming their businesses. One of our clients recently announced that his firm is now servicing some 2,500 clients per advisor. That's 10 times the average. It's important to remember that digital transformation is a journey, and all firms will be at different stages of that journey, some well advanced, others just starting. There's no doubt that it's challenging, but we believe that firms need to think big, start small, but just start. Today, I'm really happy to welcome Chris Davies, founder of Model Office, to share his views about digital transformation and what he believes it means for the financial services industry. Welcome, Chris.
Roland, good to be here.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Chris, firstly, welcome to Time for Advice. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yes, I can. So I've been in the industry now for around about 27, probably 28 years now. I started off with insurance, so I started working with Friends Provident, and I then moved to Towery Law, who were an independent financial advisor of the time, of the day, and at the tender age of 27 or 28 I was offered the Windsor opportunity to work in Windsor with them, or actually work out in Hong Kong. So a bit of a no-brainer. Single 28-year-old, ended up in Hong Kong for over a decade. I worked with Towery for 10 years in Hong Kong, mainly in IFAing, and also in wealth management. So I became a qualified wealth manager over there. I built up a wealth management team into Southeast Asia, which is great fun. And then I left. I decided that I wanted to move more into working on the industry rather than just in it. So I was very interested in key issues that we're going to talk today about technology and how that can be done well. It's not magic. It can be an enabler platform to get firms working more effectively and efficiently. And I was given an opportunity to work with AXA into Australia. So I stayed in Hong Kong living-wise, but I tripped into Australia for a couple of years, mainly Sydney, and they bought a business called IPAC Financial Planning, which we then basically transported into Hong Kong and Singapore. So my remit really was to make that business work in Hong Kong and Singapore. You know, we embedded it really well. That was all about lifestyle financial planning with technology at its heart, so cash flow modelling and all that type of stuff, which is well over a decade now, unfortunately, nearly 20 years ago. So then I moved back to the UK, had a midlife crisis at 40. Had a family as well, and so I then decided that, much to my wife's dismay, that I was going to go and do an MSc. So I did an MSc in organisational psychology just to hone my skills more in the consultancy, which is what I was entering. Long story short, we then set up a business called Engage Insight, which was more focused on compliance through RDR, Retail Distribution Review, which then really morphed into what is now Model Office, because what we saw on the horizon was this kind of like new wave come through underneath the full wave of fintech called RegTech, regulation technology, and we saw an opportunity and a gap in the market really to help firms with their governance, risk and compliance, using technology to help them get a grip of where they are as a business, self-audit the business and ensure that they've got everything tied up from a GRC, governance, risk compliance perspective.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of changes over the course of your career.
Yep.
And of course, the big conversation now is all around digital transformation. What do you think that means for advice firms?
So digital transformation is, it's an interesting phrase. I think a lot of firms, IFA firms, and having been an IFA, they tend to, they're at the coalface a lot. They're working, in the business a little bit more than on the business. And, from that perspective, there is an issue about, well, why should we change? With all this new digital wave coming through, and with fintechs, it's been around for 50 years, if you think about it, overall. But for those IFAs, financial planners, wealth managers that we've been working with, and smaller banks, building societies, they tend to, once they get an idea of the applicability of digital and how digital can help them get more quality management information, better quality data, protect the business, which is what we're in, so cyber risk, cyber resilience, financial resilience, operational resilience. Once they can get a handle on how that can help them streamline and save time and costs, which is obviously two of the biggest benefits of using digital transformation in the business, then they tend to be far more happier about adopting it. But you've got to go through that cycle of not build it, they will come, as I'm sure you know. It's all about educating advisors, financial planners and wealth managers on how technology can actually become a great enabler platform for the business. It's not magic, but at the end of the day, worked well and built well, it can help them certainly with their business needs from our world, a GRC point of view, governance risk compliance point of view, but also most importantly for them with their clients.
And how receptive are you finding them as a matter of interest?
It's a mixed bag, I'll be honest. I mean, I won't be saying, well, it's great, we're selling bucket loads. We're onboarding, a firm a month, from that point of view. We'd love to onboard more, but, that's good, particularly through a pandemic. But saying that, the more open-minded firms, the firms who are open to, are aspirational in their approach are very, very receptive to what we do. And they're very open to, have a demo, have a look, see how it could fit into their systems, see how we integrate with third-party systems and so forth. So that's been good. I think the challenge, I guess, for us as well is that we have two real target markets. We have the advisors and the financial planners, but we also have the institutions. So that's the networks and support services, because we're a software developer. We're not, necessarily a support service, a compliance support service. So from that point of view, it's a bit like turning a tanker around. They've done things in a certain way for so many years, and they've got good business models. Why change? So I guess that's the education piece, where we come in and we talk about how RegTech can help them, how it can be an enabler platform, how it can align their business with all the rules and regulations and allow them to see what's coming over the hill, which could clobber them, and basically assess the unknown unknowns and all that type of stuff. That we found a good challenge, I call it. So it's an education process that we're going through at the moment with them.
And of course, things are changing apace, radically so, across every part of industry and globally, really. Given the context of that change and the rate with which it seems to be accelerating, and of course with the backdrop of the pandemic, which has just utterly transformed people's attitudes towards the way they work, what do you think the biggest challenges facing financial advice businesses are today?
So I guess the good news is having been, as I say, a financial advisor, if you're running the business in a way that you've got a good finger on the pulse, if you like, across the business management side, the systems, the administration, the task, all the work that you guys, the good work that you guys do, as well as it's like juggling lots of balls and spinning lots of plates, but as well as ensuring that your clients are well served. I'm seeing a lot of advisors really are doing a great job, and they're able to adapt. They've got the agile, flexible approach, mindset to ensure that their clients are continually served. Technology, as we know, has been a great enabler platform for that. So what we've seen is actually an uptake in interest in what we do, because firms for the first time can self-audit their business against all the rules and regulations in one place. So they get a better idea of what could clobber them, but also where they're doing really good stuff. From that side, because we heat map everything. So what we're seeing is those firms who are willing to adopt technology realize that they don't have to have that office in that city centre. They can work it more virtually through a virtual team, have people what we call working smart from home, as a lot of businesses have, and therefore they can not only run the business in a more effective, efficient manner, but they can also serve their clients in a similar way too.
So what specific compliance responsibilities are supported by digital transformation?
So I think you've got to look at where do the compliance responsibilities lie. If you are a one-man band or a smaller outfit, well, and if you're not appointed representatives, you're completely independent. So from the independence point of view, they've got a lot on their plate. They're right at the cutting edge of regulatory risk, so they've got to ensure that they've got all the information that they need to hand. And therefore, with the SMF 16, as they're now called, the compliance officers, the SMF 17, AML, as well as all the other senior management functions that they've got under the new senior management certification regime, that's a lot to handle because you can lose the shirt off your back. So you've got to make sure to coin that phrase, you've got your finger on the pulse and you know where everything lies. That's a big one. For the ARs, the appointed representatives, well, they can rely more on the mothership, if you like, who holds that, whether it's a network or whatever, from that side, or a larger IFA practice. But even with that, they still have to show that they've got everything to hand and they know where everything is. So from even if it's policy documents and where they're held and what's going on in their business. So they've both got in the marketplace, they've both got high responsibility, because at the end of the day, the SMCR is all about accountability. That's where it was about two key areas. So competency, knowing your stuff, skills, if you like, and technical knowledge and that type of stuff, and conduct, which is all about the behavioural stuff in the industry. And that's pretty much the same across independent sector as well as the AR sector. Where it comes to the institutions, again, it's all about systems and controls, making sure that they've got all the right systems in place, they've got the right people with the right skills serving their member IFA, financial planner, wealth management firms. So again, there's a big task there to ensure that they've got all that in place.
So there's a lot going on in terms of regulatory risk as well, because of course the consequences of getting all this wrong could be terminal. Yeah. And I think that's an important consideration, especially when you also consider the importance, obviously, of GDPR around data security. I know you're very active in cyber security and risk management and all that sort of good stuff. And it sort of, it puts a big challenge, I think, to financial advice businesses, because they've got all of this going on around in the background, and at the same time they've got to run successful businesses. Often they're using relatively old technology as well, which is disconnected often. So you've got multiple systems trying to do multiple things, which itself is a risk and is inefficient. And it sort of comes back to then, how can we scale financial advice? How can we make or provide more access to this crucial market? And like you, Chris, I've been in the industry for a very long time. It's 1982 for my sins. So given that, and given that I think at the moment something like potentially 4 million people are serviced by an independent financial advisor, and there's another 40 million people out there that aren't, what scope is there for increasing access to financial advice in the UK, do you think? And how would firms go about that?
So, yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, but if you there's nothing much new in this industry, in the sense that it's quite a straightforward industry. With regard, people don't like the word sales, but at the end of the day, you have a service, you have a product, and you've got to make that as attractive enough to your clientele, and to expand your client bank. You've got to be offer value really across the piece. So. In my world, in our world at Model Office, the GRC space, well, actually the rules are there to help. So believe it or not, the FCA actually wants to help. And therefore, if you're looking at the rule book, one of the things that springs to mind is product governance, PROD, as it's called. And that's all about client segmentation. So what we're now seeing is a lot of firms beginning to, it's taken a long time for firms to get their head around this, but they're beginning to realize that if they segment their clients in the right way, and offer the services, which includes technology, So that could be cash flow modeling, it could be, how you're using the back office, the practice management solution, it could be client portals and so forth. What they've got to ensure is that they've got the right service to meet those clients' needs. And a good example of that is that we ran each year before the lockdown and pandemic, we used to run biannual symposiums at the Institute of Directors in London. And the last one that we ran was all about, wealth transformation and how money's flowing down the generations, or not, as the case may be. There's about 4 trillion quid or 4 trillion pounds sitting around in this country with the baby boomers, and therefore, where is that money going to go? Now, some of it they will want to control themselves, and it will go to their, charities or, their areas of interest. But a large chunk of it will go down to the next generation. And so intergenerational challenge is an interesting one. And if IFAs, planners, wealth managers, and if they're starting to look at that, they can look at how they've segmented their client base, and therefore look at what the services that they're offering, and are they offering what we call a family wealth office idea, where they're blending everything together. And it's an interesting point you make about technology not talking, because actually, and I know, I'm relatively new to designing technology. I mean, we've been doing this for about 3 years now, compared to your good self. But the most important thing is technology done well. It's a great enabler platform, but it also offers a joined up holistic approach. Because what we want to do, our ambition at Model Office, is to move firms away. We hate them with a passion, spreadsheets and Excel spreadsheets, and bring everything together. Avoid what we call swivel chair compliance, where you're using disparate sources, so you know where everything is in one place, and that's really important. But you can also do that with other types of technology by using a quality practice management solution like Curo, where it blends stuff together. You've got all the the cash flow modeling, you've got the ATR, capacity for loss tools, you've got the research tools, you've got the client portal, and if you've got that in place, then you're empowering your family wealth office, and you're also bringing in third-party solutions such as professional practices like solicitors and accountants, whether you're looking at lasting power of attorney, will planning, estate planning, long-term care planning. All that stuff can be brought together by using not only your client segmentation approach, which goes back to the rule book, but also good technology.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head, talking about that sort of family office approach, where you can sort of provide a holistic overview of the entire household. The next question is obviously about your experience with current technology, current back office systems specifically, because that's the area of interest as far as I'm concerned, as you know. Given that all of the back office systems, or the majority of back office systems in common use, were built in the mid-90s to the early noughties, and they were built around the pre-RDR transactional business model, and are therefore contact-centric as opposed to account-centric, and are not CRM systems insofar as they don't provide real access to your data. I mean, how do you think the industry can evolve from there? They're sort of, because the fact that the technology's promised so much and delivered so little over the years is the reason why people are using Excel spreadsheets.
Yes.
They're compensating. So from your perspective, what's your view of the current technology, and how do you think that should change and evolve?
So it's a good question. There's a great opportunity, in this area that you've just talked about, and the reason why that is, as I say, technology, built well, should be able to talk to other technologies, bring data together, ensure the security of that data. So cyber resilience is a hot topic for the FCA, as it is part of their business plan, 2019-20. So, but the key issue with this is that if you're looking at the direction of travel from a regulatory point of view, well, their direction of travel is all around digital transformation. It's all about digital regulatory reporting, DRR, as they call it. They've just revamped Gabriel, and it's now RegData. Okay, now, unfortunately, a bit of a missed opportunity, because it's the same data points. All they've done is re-platformed it and made it more intuitive to input the data. But there's no reason why that data can't flow automatically from a good quality back office solution. So we're actually working with the FCA at the moment on how that can happen through Model Office. Model Office could sit between the back office solution and RegData, new Gabriel, and it should be able to flow through. So there's that aspect, because obviously with application programming interfaces, APIs, how all that works. There's no reason why that shouldn't be the case. The other thing to mention is, as you've talked about, is legacy. The problem that you've got, I guess a lot of systems have been built on older style systems. You've only got to look at the platform industry and the problems of replatforming for that. So what we want to do is work with, and we're agnostic on other technology providers, but the most important thing for us is serving our clients, which is the IFAs, the wealth managers and the institutions, so the networks and support services. And that would mean effectively, looking at, what is available currently, but what does, good look like? Where do we need to be? So, for example, at the moment we plug into third-party, back office providers. We don't with Curo yet, but we are speaking to you. The frustrations, I guess, the challenges that we have is that a lot of those data points can only be brought in per client. What we need is a data lake.
Of course.
And the same principle applies with the FCA. And they are looking at things like data lakes where industry can share. And the problem with the industry in many ways it's been very navel gazing and very silo. Well, to serve and grow and meet all the stuff that you've talked about regarding how can advisors better serve their clients. Data lakes are a prerequisite in my opinion. So what does a data lake mean? Well, it means that we have an access to pretty much all the relevant data in, for example, a client segment, or across all the advisor's clients, and we can then begin to slice and dice that data, pull in the relevant data points, and where we can help them is enormously. So not only can we help them with digital regulatory reporting for the FCA point of view, so streamline and automate some of that, but we can also help them with is professional indemnity insurance, because the industry is being killed at the moment. Margins are ridiculously tight. Our ambition is to reduce the cost of PII, and also ensure that firms who are doing a great job out there, and the vast majority are with their clients, make sure that they can get better renewal terms. So we're working currently with underwriters, with 3 of the major, there's not many left, underwriters, PII underwriters in the marketplace, to look at how we can add value to showcase, look, it's scoring well across all model office key factors, key risk indicators, therefore they're showing that they're a good risk, and moving the underwriters away from looking at the market risk, which is a very hard market risk at the moment, obviously pension transfers and so forth, into a firm risk, looking at the individual firm and saying, they're doing a great job, and they're showcasing they're doing a great job over the time because they've got the evidence and the hard data to prove it. So that's an important point as well, how technology can help.
Well, we're going to come back to Mo and what Mo does in part 2 of this interview. But that was really interesting, and thank you very much indeed for answering those questions. And I hope our viewers will find that really insightful and informative and useful. But there are some really important points that I completely subscribe to, not least of which is the importance of that central truth, that single place where your data is held in a highly structured way, and that data then feeds everything. It is the point of truth, of convergence of everything to do with that business. And once firms have been able to achieve that objective, and this is our entire focus at Time for Advice and Curo, because it provides that single truth, then significant efficiencies can be delivered around process and document automation, and of course surfacing information through nudges, because of course artificial intelligence and machine learning is coming. That can only ever work when you have a common data service and some sort of access to that data, the data lake that you're talking. And that's a big driver for Time for Advice, so that we can turn that data into a living, breathing asset which actually performs nudges and highlights areas that firms should be focusing on, not only regulatory but also in terms of delivering that client service. Chris, thank you very much. End of part 1. We'll be back shortly for part 2.
Great, thank you, Roland.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Chris Davies interview from Model Office, from MO. So, Chris, nice to see you again.
And you?
So tell me, Mo, I mean, it's a nice name, an affectionate name for Model Office. Why does Mo even exist?
Mo exists really because when I moved back to the UK in 2010, we set up, once I'd gone through a midlife crisis I talked about in the previous part of this interview, and done my MSc, finished my MSc. I looked at setting up a consultancy which was really focused on compliance, because the retail distribution reviews was pretty much coming through. There was a big focus on the financial crisis and, all the stuff around, systems and controls in businesses, the move to professionalization of the industry, if you want to call it a phrase. So we set up Engage Insight, which was really just focused on compliance. That was pretty much it. But we did our own research and development, and that research and development really started to embellish and allow us to understand where the trends are and where the issues are and where the skeletons in the closets are and what could come over and whack firms around the head, if you like, going down the line. So in the end, I think we researched we've got probably research now of around 700 firms in the marketplace. And what that transpired is that we did, the usual benchmark reports each year, which we still do. But what we saw is the need for firms to get better quality MI on their businesses, to ensure, as I said earlier on, to move away from the swivel chair compliance, move away from using disparate sources like lots of Excel spreadsheets, different ways of managing their governance, risk and compliance, and ensure they've got everything in one place and how it all fits. So taking more of a holistic view rather than a checklist tick box view. Because we were one of many running around the market saying to everybody, right, clobbering people over the head with the COBS rule book and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, get your checklist, get your tasks sorted out and that type of stuff. People would do it, but it's very transactional. They wouldn't necessarily buy into it. So what we wanted to do was use a bit of behavioral economics, if you like, so called Endowment Theory. So I've got this cup and I own this cup, so this cup is worth more to me than it is to you because it's my cup. And it's the same principle applies to home, purchase and so forth. But it's the same with data. If you buy into your own data and MI, and you think actually, this is our own, MI and data. Same with cash flow modelling with clients for their own data, and understanding their own journey. Once firms get a grip of their own data and their own MI, they want to improve it. They want to ensure that it's still good quality and it's showcasing they're doing a great job for their clients and they are highly compliant. How do you do that? Technology. That's the only answer really. So we went away and looked at all this MI and data that we'd had over and brought together over the years. And we then looked at the new wave of RegTech coming through. And we were actually invited into the FCA in 2015 alongside lots of other consultancies around their Sandbox and Innovate initiative. Yeah. And we basically came up with the idea. We said to them, well, look, surely what you should be doing for firms that are applying to the Sandbox and firms in general in the marketplace, their biggest problem is they don't, because they're in a principles-based framework, they don't know if they comply or not. It's all very subjective. So therefore, what we said to them is, what you need, Mr. and Mrs. FCA, is a diagnostic platform that allows firms to actually input where they believe they are in the system of the regulations. And then the algorithms can kick in and say, this is where you actually are. And most importantly, this is what to do to ensure that you're improving. And that's, in the essence, is how we started Model Office. And over time, Mo has obviously developed because we've now got 185 firms using the platform. But the way this works is that, we want to ensure our clients, our customers, our firms that are using the platform get the most out of it. So we want feedback from them to say, what else do you want? What else do you need? And we can do that as a new business, a newish business, because we're very flexible and agile. So what we're now doing is we're moving into the weird and wonderful world of machine learning and AI. So we're bringing in a product called Monitor, which is all about how we can get machine learning to use AI text analysis, so firms can just upload their compliance policy documents, business continuity, AML, financial promotions, best execution, client agreements, whatever it would be, and we can automatically read that and give them in real time an automated report so they know that they're compliant or not, RAG-rated report. We've got the system now with an automated action tracker. So it basically looks at all the areas that the firm has looked at and diagnostically assessed their business. And the action tracker, which we worked on with Rory Percival, we've RAG-rated all the question sets in Model Office, high risk, medium risk, low risk. Good practice is the low risk. And therefore, on the action tracker, the automated action plan, they then see across all the areas that they need to get their grip on where they sit against all the rules, and then most importantly, it tracks what they need to do next automatically, through the system, and also syncs in with their diaries to give them diary alerts. So there's lots there, which has developed over time based on the initial data analysis that we did on the marketplace.
That's fascinating. It really is fascinating. It sounds like a really interesting service to help direct businesses as to the important things that they need to get right in order to mitigate the risks, the inevitable business risks that exist.
I think the interesting thing is that we need to know where our strengths lie as a business. So as I said at the start, technology is not magic, and I used to hate, when I was at Towery Law, we used to have a lot of technology, wouldn't talk to each other. Some of the technology licenses that we bought, we never used. So it's just like sand going through our fingers, from that side of things. But technology done well, it should all come together and provide a holistic solution. So that's why we're interested in speaking to you good selves, because at the end of the day, that data lake idea where we can go in and look at, advisor firms' data and give them better quality streamlined regulatory reports, across data quality health checking, advice suitability health check, which clients are underinsured or underinvested against their goals, and so for AML, KYC, PEP sanctions checks, all that stuff we can do automatically, but we just need the technology to talk.
Absolutely. Before we get into that, in terms of integrating with other technologies, because that's a key part of what we all do actually, we're all about best of breed, about collaboration. What's the vision for the business?
So the vision for Mo is that, our strapline, if you like, is that we're here to empower professional practice whilst reducing compliance costs and time. And that's really what we're about. So we're all about a firm who knows they're on a journey and they're aspirational, they want to take the business and grow it. And therefore, most importantly, they need to ensure that they've got the finger on the pulse for the GRC, the governance, risk, compliance areas. That's it. So that's playing to our strengths. We're not interested in being a back office provider. We're not interested in being a cash flow modeling system or whatever. That front of house, we're not, that's not us. What we are is GRC, governance, risk, compliance. But what we are interested in doing, as I say, is really focused on making sure firms get high quality data, high quality MI, so that they know that they're complying with all the rules. And also they have the confidence then, because what we do, annual reviews on our how they're using the system and where the benefits are. And what they're saying to us is that, by using Model Office, it's helping us streamline, it's helping us save some time and costs around compliance. Therefore, we're confident we can invest in that paraplanner that we want to bring on board. We can invest in the back office systems that we need to embellish on, and build out, and so forth. So it's giving firms more confidence that they know that they're in a better place so that they can build out the business going forward.
So you've mentioned on a number of occasions the importance of integrating with other technologies. What do you mean by that exactly?
So we're in the world of technology where it can talk to each other. So there's no excuse why technology and businesses shouldn't come together and look at meeting some of these challenges that you've eloquently talked about that advisor firms have to deal with in the marketplace. So you can look at some of the things I've already mentioned. You can look at regulatory reporting. Well, why is it that each quarter a firm has to go through the whole process of inputting the same data all the time? It's a waste of time. Okay, so what we're doing is we're working with the FCA with their new RegData platform with the APIs, how technology talks to each other, to see how we can work and smooth that through. The back office, the practice management solutions, like you good selves, have a part to play in that. Because if you're able to offer the data lake solution, then ideally what we can then do is sit Model Office between Curo and the RegData platform and let things move through in effective and streamlined manner, which makes it far more easier. PII insurance is a good example. So again, having to fill in that form each year and every year, well, a lot of that information is held on the back office, product information and so forth. Why not have that pull across? And again, Model Office is looking at that. We're actually currently looking at one of the projects we've got on in train is scoping out how we can actually offer an automated PII application form for firms. And then because we're already working with the underwriters, that should feed through to their underwriting processes automatically, so that they get a better risk, handle on the risks that a firm has and how they're managing those risks. So it's at the core of what we do is evidence-based practice, Not do we think this is true, do we know this is true? And the only way you're going to know that is if you've got high quality MI, high quality data, all in one place.
So it's right back to the digital transformation discussion that obviously started off this interview.
Yeah.
How do you bring everything together in a coherent way which is usable, reusable?
The important thing about that though, Roland, is the FCA are requiring that. If you look at and have read their business plan for 2019-20, which I know you have, but in there, it's all about ensuring firms have got the finger on the pulse. I keep on saying that, but they know that they've got the quality data in the system. The data feeds through, and therefore that produces high quality management information reports for them, so that they know that they're complying, knowing that they're giving their clients the best possible service they can.
And you know what? Most firms don't and can't, and that is the real issue here, actually, and something that the industry must face, the practitioners must face. And I hope they get that point from the conversations that we're having, because unless they do take their data seriously, and we know they don't, given that most businesses, as we've already mentioned, run their business on Excel, completely unstructured data across multiple platforms, wasting days compiling management information reports which are out of date before they're presented. It presents a real challenge. Now, I was going to ask about how Mo works with the FCA Innovation Unit and the digital reporting requirements. Now, you've answered that, because at the end of the day, if you're able to consume data and then pass data in real time to the regulator, job done. It wastes all of that time of manually inputting the same old data into the portal. So moving on from there, because one of the next questions is the acid test, really, isn't it? It's the thing which helps you understand whether you're on track or whether you're just wasting your time. And that's, what do your clients say about Mo, and how's it impacted their businesses?
Okay, so we're lucky enough to have some great clients, and we started the business 3 years ago from a standing start. We had no clients, and but we had a great vision for where we wanted to go, and we saw a gap in the market in the GRC space. So what we effectively did was we started by offering a beta free version, a light version that we called it, Model Office Lite, and we got over 300 firms on it. And that helped because we get more information and that type of stuff. And what firms, then we launched the standard platform in 2018, the enterprise version and the institutional version in 2019. So what firms are saying is effectively, we've got some big name firms, we've got some medium firms, we've got some small firms on the system. But what they all seem to be saying to us is one key thing. It's giving us far more an idea and access to understanding where do we comply or not. So it's giving them the evidence to know where are the key issues, what they need to be doing next, and most importantly, where is the business as it stands at the moment, to give them the confidence so they can build out the business moving forward. So it's that question about, do I know I comply or not? And it's a very subjective issue. I always used to say to my wealth management team, wealth management isn't, it's not an exact science. It's very subjective because you're dealing with human beings. Same thing applies to the rules. We're in a principles-based framework. The FCA told us they can't do what we do. They like what we do, but they can't do it because they can't be seen to be prescriptive in a principles-based framework. Well, so we thought, right, let's go for it, So what our firms are liking is that prescriptive approach. We're giving heat map dashboards, but most importantly, as Rory Percival has said about what we do, we're giving high quality challenge to the firm. We're holding up the mirror to the firm to say, do you really think you are 100% compliant in this area? Do you have the right systems and controls in place? Do you have the right people with the right skills, in place? Do you have a HRD dashboard that you can refer to? Because the problem with a lot of advisors have got, and planners have got, and wealth managers have got, they've got lots on because they're dealing with their clients on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, it's time on versus time in. We want to take some of the pressure on that, time on the business away from them, so that they've got dashboards that they know that they comply. It's all gamification, we call it. So it's a bit like an app where you want to up your level, because what we do is effectively we color code the whole thing, and we give them score dials that they can see how they're scoring, not only against the rules and regulations, against their peers. Because we've researched 700 odd firms in the marketplace. So they can see that, they can see how their scores increase, and they can do all the action tracking through the system automatically, and they can also integrate it with their compliance diary that they're using, or their calendars that they're using, whether it's Microsoft or whatever, iCal, whatever. So from that point of view, it gives them, hate to say it, gives them no excuse. So they're saying to us, we haven't got an excuse. We have got everything that we need through the system. It auto nudges us to make sure we're always getting on the money with our GRC stuff.
And I think that's the point, isn't it? It's giving them comfort if they can see they're pretty good, but if they're deficient in a way, or they then see, I guess, the priorities, the really important stuff that they have to address first, and the nice to haves, which perhaps will come later.
Well, it does. It rates that, and it RAG rates that, so they know what they need to do straight away. All the red area, they get involved in it. They can filter it all down, so they're not going to get into overwhelm and that type of stuff. But the other thing to mention as well is that we've got many firms who work with support services, compliance support services on the system. We're not here to replace the compliance support services. We're here to and work with them and enhance what happens. So we have a lot of firms who say to us, because we've got Mo and we've got our audit, quarterly audit or half yearly audit or annual audit process with our support service, it's giving us much more information that we can ensure that we're challenging the audit process to ensure we're getting the most out of the audit process. So we're getting the value for money, if you like, from the support service, as well as understanding where we are. So it's helping empower audits, which then comes on to the support services. We've got one major support service network on the system at the moment. We're speaking to another 3. But what they're saying is in helping them get more quality MI on their member firms and data on their member firms. It's helping them streamline their audit process, so they're saving time and costs on their audit process from that point of view. And they're very excited about the AI text analysis system that we're bringing through, because again, it helps them upload those policy documents and automatically read it straight away. So that's all exciting stuff.
Again, it just drives the importance of having that central truth, doesn't it? Yeah. And a lot of businesses are significantly compromised because they just don't. No. And so I think once they begin to see the benefits of digitalisation, if you like, then the momentum will increase, and that will be good for the industry generally. So I know when I met you outside and you jumped out of your lovely Lexus. We bumped envelopes and bumped elbows, which of course is a sure sign that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Yes. So how have you guys managed? How have you been able to cope with the new world, so to speak?
It's that old chestnut. Nothing's changed for us because we set up as a virtual business. So what we did was we've got a team, we've got some great people in the business. As I mentioned, we've got Rory Percival, there's Phil Young, who's ex-360, who's one of our NEDs, non-exec directors. We've got Paul Resnick, who sits on the board, who's ex-Phenometrica and Transact. Rory Percival, is an associate with us, and he does consultancy for us. We've got Helen Clark, who used to work for Mazars and a few of the firms, and the Ian McKenna's lot. I can't remember their name, but so she's great, and she does a lot of project management for us and onboarding clients. So from that side of things, we're a virtual business. So they're working from home. And our developers, we have a couple of in-house developers. They work from home, and we outsource as well to a group based at Cranfield University, who were a startup, and they, interestingly enough, they didn't have any experience in retail financial services, which is what we wanted. As I mentioned, that word gamification. We wanted something to make compliance, governance, and risk a little bit less painful than a visit to the dentist. We wanted to make it engaging and interesting and colourful, bring it all to life, all in one place, in a holistic way, and that's what we've done. So we're all a virtual team. Hasn't affected us. What we have seen is a massive interest in what we do, because obviously with audits, people, they can't send, the networks and support services have pulled back on sending their auditors into businesses, and we've also seen a massive interest in firms wanting to know a bit more about themselves. Firms are always interested in themselves, and therefore the self-audit process, the self-regulatory process that